Yeah.
I don't know why.
I love my HBCU. And boy, I love it, love it. I love it, love it. I love my HBCU. And man, I hope my team they won one. Yeah. I hope my team they won one. Yeah. Man, I hope my team they won one. I hope my team they won one. Yeah. I tune into the HBCU Sports Lab to see if my team won or lost. If they lost, I'm quiet as a mouse. But if they won, keep tab. I'ma do the dab, yeah. Dr. Cavil, he know what he be talking about. Mike and Charles, they know what they be talking about. They compress the analytic data with your hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they won or lost, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gon' teach a lesson.
This is Dr. Cavil of Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. This is a special edition with the Game Time production of Black College Sports Network. This is Brian and AD, as you know, of Sports Rap with Brian and AD. We're here in Birmingham, Alabama at the SWAC Baseball Championship, that would be 2022. We're in between the elimination game. The previous one was between FAMU and Prairie View A&M. So I see yours continue to be happy, man. I don't know about them Panthers. They got run ruled as they got taken out by those Rattlers, pesky Rattlers, I say.
Been a tough day for the state of Texas when it comes to baseball up here in Birmingham.
No doubt, yeah. State of Texas, we haven't seen this in a while. State of Texas went out of the tournament 1-4 in terms of Texas Southern was 0-2 in barbecue, as they say. It's been tough. And the West has taken, to the chin in a lot of ways. That first day, combination, because, the rain delay only allowed 2 games to come in of the 4 that were supposed to be played. The next 2 were played early Thursday before they were rained out. So between the first 2 days, the East went 3 of 4. With Southern, the only team that was able to get a victory out of the West Division. The rest were the East taking it to the West, with Alabama State winning their matchup, obviously. Bethune-Cookman getting it done as well. And you just seen what was going on there. And so it was a lot to be desired when you talk about what was taking place of all the things going on. And obviously FAMU was able to get a game over Prairie View, the first game, which was a classic one, 4-3 in a lot of ways that was played there. Jackson State was 0-2 as well. They lost their second elimination to Prairie View, where it allowed Prairie View to stick around, but then they couldn't get it done in their second matchup with FAMU. So that means FAMU is into the pool in terms of out of their bracket. They're into the championship.
The bracket championship.
And so they will take on Southern, which they lost a close one where they had to come from behind. Southern did, which seems to be the way they get it done in the tournament. But they're undefeated, so they'll be playing.
Yes.
And I'll set it up coming to you after this one. So this particular matchup that we have coming up front of it is Grambling taking Bethune-Cookman, which lost earlier today to Alabama State, which means Alabama State has put themselves in position of the other bracket to play for a championship, and they'll play the winner of this Grambling Bethune-Cookman game.
Yeah.
So what have you thought about the tournament thus far?
Well, I didn't get here till today, but I have been watching it online for the last 2 days, as much as the weather has allowed me to watch it online, because weather has played and it's going to play a key part in this tournament. But I'm gonna step back to what we had earlier today. Grambling had somewhat of an easy victory over Texas Southern, whereas Bethune and Alabama State had a dogfight. Another one of those one-run games that we had. 6 of the first 8 games here in Birmingham were one-run games. As a matter of fact, the 2 games that were not one-run games were not even played in this park. They were played over at the University of Alabama, Birmingham, as they were trying to make up time in the schedule. We've just had our first blowout here in Regions Park with FAMU defeating Prairie View A&M. But thus far, it's really been interesting, And what's going to be interesting going forward, and you and I talked about this, for the team that's coming out of the losers bracket, they will be having their midweek starter going tomorrow for a potential championship game, whereas the teams that are coming out of the winners bracket, that being Alabama State and Southern, will have their typical Sunday starter going on tomorrow. So let's see how this plays. The one thing, Alabama's Southern had the extra day off in the middle of the tournament due to the weather. Alabama State got the first day off due to the weather. So let's see how these weather delays and changes in the schedule really affect the pitching. I think that's going to play a factor in who will be the 2022 SWAC champion.
Yeah, especially coming into that championship game. Remember, we have those if games on Saturday. So usually you would have a Saturday off if you could come out unscarred of your bracket that Wednesday, Friday, if you would. Wednesday, Thursday, Friday for some teams, depending on where you were. But if you were able to come out of that bracket, then you would have Saturday off. Well, now you're going to play Saturday. And if you can't win, you're undefeated, and you go in the lose bracket, which means you have to lose twice. That means you'll actually play 2 games on Saturday before a championship game.
Right.
So it's going to be real interesting what that looks like. If you can, or Southern and Alabama State, if you can win with your traditionally is your Sunday pitcher, your third rotational pitcher.
Yes.
That means you could either come back with your ace. You also have your midweek starter usually ready to go, versus you see the teams coming out of the loser bracket, their arms are starting to be spent. So they're down to the 4th day. So you're going to do rotation. You might see some teams think about bringing their pitcher that did on Wednesday, if they were able to play that early game, or Thursday, and maybe pitch them 3 or 4 innings to see how they're going and what they can get through. So it's going to be fascinating when you talk about that a lot.
In a championship scenario, assuming Southern and Alabama State get to Sunday, Southern would have the advantage because they could theoretically come back with their number one, because their number one pitched on Wednesday on 3 days rest, whereas Alabama State did not get the advantage of playing on
they played Thursday.
Wednesday. They played on Thursday. So Alabama State will not be able to come back with it. They could come back with their number one.
Especially when you start looking at how deep the Southern pitcher went in that rotation. Remember, FAMU jumped out early.
Yes.
So you're talking about the number of pitches as well. So you're going to have your pitch count and the days of rest, which is to your point. So
and
interesting about that.
Yeah, the big thing is for Alabama State, the Thursday starter, if he's doing his normal routine, that's his toss. That's his day that he throws on the bullpen anyway. So you may be able to get 2-3 innings out of him because that's going to equate to what a normal bullpen session would be for a pitcher. Now, if you could get 3 innings out of him, 40, 50 pitches out of him, now if you're Alabama State, you got to pick your poison. Now, you definitely can't come back with your number 2 and your number 3 because they've pitched today. But you still got your midweek in there, and hopefully your midweek can get you to the back of your bullpen, and then maybe we'll have things. But I'm gonna say this, Dr. Cavil, I don't care who's in this championship game on Sunday. Whatever the over/under is, take the over, because we're gonna have a lot. I think we're gonna have a lot of runs by the time we get to Sunday.
And what's going to be fascinating about that, you alluded to this, that the games have been very competitive. Other than 2 games, because even it's really been 9 games because the other one just finished. Because you talk about 6 of 8, and that was before that last one was played, including the 2 that were played at UABB as to increase the speed of the tournament because they got rained out here. But even that first game between Prairie View and Jackson State, while it was a 6-3 3-1 game, Jackson State put 2 runners on, so they had to tying.
It was
run at the plate.
Yeah, it was competitive 3-run game.
Yeah, it was a very competitive game, and Prairie View came back. The last 2 that you've seen had been those kind of blowout, 10 right at the edge of 10 runs. Texas Southern, 9 runs essentially were able to get through it, but they were right on the verge of being 10 runs, and then obviously the last game here. So it's going to be interesting in terms of FAMU being able to get a little bit of rest, sit down, and, you got that emotional matchup where that Southern and FAMU, it's been a classic on the gridiron for so many years. was brought back. A lot of people felt in some ways that game that was played football-wise with Southern going to FAMU a couple of years ago, among other things, was one of the cool high points that helped in terms of looking at the decision of moving into SWAC. And it's lived up to it since then in terms of the football game that was played in Baton Rouge last year. Was pretty much a classic. And it's transitioned into different sports. Basketball, particularly on the men's side, is fascinating. And now that game in the tournament is what helps make matchups, even though it's East-West matchups. So it's going to be fascinating to see. And I'm into that game tomorrow. Obviously, Bethune-Cookman and Alabama State being in the same division, that's starting to really cook off like we thought it would in a lot of ways. Do we want to take a break here, or are we going to go all the way through?
Let's just roll through because
Okay.
we've got just under 14 minutes before the next game. So unless you need a break, Doc, let's just
No,
go
fine.
ahead and roll through. Now, you talk about Bethune-Cookman and Alabama State.
Yeah.
Let's not forget about the elephant in the room with their coaching staffs having worked at both schools.
Yes,
so
yes.
this is going to
Very
be
familiar with each other.
Yeah, that was a
They-
very interesting
Familiarity
dynamic.
breeds contempt is what they say sometimes.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's a good thing. One thing I will say in the West, being more familiar with that side in terms of just getting to see those teams more, obviously follow the whole league in baseball across black college sports. When you talk about this Grambling team can hit. So it's going to be fascinating with Bethune-Cookman. A lot of times you hear about their pitching depth. To me, it's not what we expect and usually have, but it's deeper than most of the teams in the SWAC for that. So it's going to be fascinating to see in this matchup, can Grambling put the bat on the ball or can Bethune hold it down? Now, Bethune-Cookman has some thumpers, but you tend to see with them playing, station to station. They will put some players in motion, if you would, in terms of that. But Grambling is pretty aggressive on the base paths. We see that with Texas Southern. And one thing that you pointed out early that Grambling was able to do to Texas Southern in that elimination game, they beat them at their own game. They were able to get folks on. They were pushing them, and they were bunning over, stealing bases, and they were able to hold Texas Southern off the base pass, so they couldn't take advantage of the speed.
You can't steal first base.
Exactly. The other thing, until the pitcher got hurt, folks made her realize it. They saw Texas Southern, to their credit, push back and put like 5 runs in the 5th, 6th inning. Take that,
I think it was the 6th inning. I don't have the box score in front of me.
Right in front of us, so we're doing this off of memory. But part of that is because the pitcher went to throw what looked like a fastball, and it bounced about 5 feet in front of the plate.
Yes.
And I instantly saw him kind of point to the dugout. He went kind of around the mound and went back to the mound, and looked like he was going to try to go, and he just didn't feel it. Coach called him, credit to Grambling, and walked out there and talked to him, and they went around, and whatever it was, he just couldn't go. Yeah. And it gave the momentum to Texas Southern to get back in the game. Now, in the bottom, Grambling gained that momentum right back and scored 4 runs. Correct. What did you think about that whole episode when that kind of took place?
Well, and I don't have the names in front of me, but I remember it was number 20 for Grambling came to the mound. And came to the mound cold because he was not even warming up. He was not even warming up in the booth, but he was actually a player in the game, if I remember correctly. Came to the mound cold. Actually got the first out because it was 1 out when the starting pitcher injured his arm, and he has a funky side arm submarine motion. I guess it took a batter for them to figure it out. Then he gave up 5 runs. You really can't fault him because he came in cold. He didn't know he was getting ready to pitch that inning.
I think you give more credit to Texas Southern to continue to fight through.
And
but then
you
give Grambling what they needed to do, which is a classic matchup. Anybody that's followed SWAC, especially over the last 10 years, know the matchup between Grambling and Texas Southern. It's a dirt fight on the dirt in terms of them going after each other. And I'm talking about it in terms of competitive way, not nasty. And so you knew that was going to take place. Right. And Grambling had the edge and was able to get it done in that. And they fought right back to put some more comfortability space as they went to close out that game.
Speaking of the West, Dr. Cavil, Southern Jaguars. A cat gets 9 lives. Well, God, dog, how many lives does a Jaguar get? Because when it comes to tournament time, they will not die. Their last 3 tournament games, they have come from behind to win them. The last time they were actually out front in a tournament game and stayed out front was last year's bracket final, bracket if game when they defeated Prairie View A&M in right up the road in Huntsville, Alabama.
Right.
But it's something about Southern. It's their mentality. As long as they have it at bat, they think they have a chance. And
I think
until somebody proves me wrong.
I think you're exactly, and you're onto something. But I think this is even more than just the mentality. But I think this is a legacy of the program. And this is what frustrates some of the Jackson State fans out there, and to some degree even Grambling State fans. Because for the longest, it was Southern, Jackson State, and Grambling. They were the only ones who had won a championship in the modern era of the SWAC since they started doing the tournament, basically, until over the last 15 years when Prairie View finally jumped over the hurdle. Then you had Texas Southern, and then Prairie View, and then Texas Southern again. Alcorn getting in the mix. Finally, Alabama State breaking through. So you started seeing it, different teams. But Southern has always been steady in that mix. You had Jackson State jump back in there and Grambling a little bit as well. But Southern is consistently finding a way to do it. So this is a program. So you come into the Southern program and you see those championships and the legacy. And this is over multiple coaches. So there's an expectation when you come in that program, this is what we're supposed to do. As they like to say down in that side, S on a chest. And it really means something in many sports, but particularly in baseball. This is a program to give you some indication of that. You know, as much as watching it, at the midway point, Prairie View, just to close out the season, a game that was supposed to be played in Baton Rouge, but weather was switched to Prairie View, right?
Yes.
Prairie View swept Southern. And Southern was 3rd and 4th in the division at that time, and people wanted to put some dirt on them then. They came back storming in the second half, right? Was able to get over the hump, including a weekend that was basically determining the top of the division. And they swept Prairie View. To pay them back, they swept them, including a comeback win in the game 3, which was crucial in terms of closing out the season. And then they swept Alcorn that hasn't been playing good baseball, but they needed what they did to set them up for this. So I say all that just like you said. Southern expects to win in the tournament. So you have to literally choke them out. You have to get it done. You cannot give them life. As we say on the baseball or sporting context, or they will believe. And that's what happened when FAMU, the Rattlers, jumped out to a 7-0, including a 4-home run inning, where the bottom, Southern put up 5 to put them right back in the game.
And saw it in that game, saw it, I say last night, Wednesday night. Mm-hmm. And we just saw it in the game right before we came on. FAMU has made some fundamental, simple mistakes, errors that cost them in that Southern game. Did not cost them against Prairie View.
The first time, because it nearly did. Because
Prairie
View made
I was going to say, in this game, but in the first game, it almost cost them against Prairie View.
That's right.
In this game, I really think after a certain point when FAMU jumped out of front, Prairie View became a little bit disinterested.
Yeah.
But if that would have been a competitive game at that point,
correct,
that once again could have cost them. And obviously everybody knows I'm a Rattler.
That's right.
So
I agree.
In order for FAMU to
play with Southern,
play tomorrow, and play with Southern tomorrow, and to win this thing, they are going to have to correct those simple mistakes. Not throwing the ball to the right base, not fielding the ball on the short hop, not charging the ball, waiting on the ball to get to you. You can't do this at this level, especially with the speed.
That's right.
A team like a Southern had, Texas Southern is gone, but with the speed some of these teams have, you cannot do that and expect to win. That's not the catcher running down.
Right.
That's the left fielder. You better hurry up and get it over there.
No doubt about it. When you talk about how it looks, I did want to talk a little bit again about the competitiveness of the games you're talking about. What's your thoughts in terms of so many one-run rules? What does that say about the SWAC, at least in terms of these top 4, some teams out of each division coming in, when you talk about 6 of the 9 games being 1 run, and then even 7 of the 9 being within 3 runs?
I said this, I don't remember whose show I was on. Matter of fact, it was on our show, and we had Charles Edmond on, and I asked Charles if you thought one side could sweep Wednesday. Well, Wednesday turned into Thursday. But you understand what the question was. If the East side could sweep and have all their teams in the winners bracket, or the West side could have all their teams in the winners bracket. We all kind of agreed the swing game was going to be Jackson State Southern.
Yeah.
And it wound up being the swing game. That's the only game that the East lost.
Right.
Was the Jackson State Southern game. But it shows
and Jackson State jumped out in front of that game.
Jackson, it was deja vu all over again in 2022.
Yeah.
Deja vu in 2022. That's our thing. Yeah. All right, so get back to it, but it very competitive. Shows the parity in the SWAC, number one. But also number two, Dr. Cavil, typical first day of a tournament of when you have that much parity, you're going to have low scoring games on day one. You're going to have 1-2 run games on day one. This is separation day now. Yeah. This game right here, we already saw one in the losers bracket final is what we just played. Right. This is the other losers bracket final. You're gonna see some separation. Whoever has some depth in their arms, this is the second game of the day for both these teams. They're gonna separate themselves, and the longer the starters go in this game, the better the winner will be for tomorrow morning / afternoon.
So as we start to get ready to close up here, as they're getting ready to start getting at the top of the hour, basically, I did want to ask you in terms of what's left. Obviously, we have FAMU Southern. Where are you going in terms of that? But who's ultimately going to get into Championship Sunday?
My heart says FAMU.
Can they, before you do that, 'cause it sounds like you're going to lean maybe a little bit Southern, can FAMU even force a winners take all game?
Not playing like they just played in this last game, despite what their score was. If they play that way defensively. Now, I love the aggression FAMU had on the base pass, but are they going to hit, 4 or 5 home runs they hit in that game?
They had 5.
They hit 5.
At least.
Are they going to hit 5 home runs every game?
No.
That's my point.
2 come from one guy, number 14.
That's my point. You can't count on the long ball to get you.
And 3 of those long balls were multi-run
RBI
hits.
I
think at least 6 RBIs.
I know there was a 3-run home run and a couple 2 home runs. I don't think there was one solo 7 out of that.
Yeah.
So
I think it might have been one solo.
Yeah. And y'all forgive us. We're going off the top of our heads as we were moving around. But you can't count on that.
Yeah.
And some of the other things that my Rattlers are doing that's not going to be conducive to winning. So I have to take Southern in that game. On the other side, let's go with this game right here.
Cookman and Grambling.
I almost hate to say it, but as a Rattler, it's hard for me to take Bethune. But I've got to. I've got to go with the Wildcats.
Hey, I would say this is that the East helps you make that decision right now. Until you see a little more from the West, other than Southern being able to get it done, and they're the champions. But can Grambling make a statement for the West? So I like that.
I don't know if Grambling has enough pitching left to get through this game, let alone tomorrow.
Right. But I've seen these kind of tournaments that are interesting to me. You get somebody that comes out expected, and somehow they get in a little groove, and they give you 5 innings, or 4 innings. Then you can go to your bullpen. If you're decent in the bullpen, you can stack up innings if you can get one pitcher to kind of get you through and keep down. That's the question: is how far can Grambling go? They can get it into 4th, 5th, and really, if they get into 6th, they're in good shape. But let's say, like you said, leaning through Bethune-Cookman, which means you set up the Bethune-Cookman Alabama State. Can Bethune-Cookman tomorrow against Alabama State force a winner-take-all game?
I think Bethune will force the if game. I do not think FAMU will force the if game.
Okay. So Bethune-Cookman forcing that if game.
Yes.
It means you got Alabama State, Bethune-Cookman, 1 win to get them in the championship against Southern. Who you have?
Still, Bama State Southern.
All right, so you're going to go Bama State Southern?
Yes.
That means you got the number 1 seeds coming out. I like that. It makes sense. A little tougher maybe for Alabama State to get out of it, but they get out of it. Now you got this Alabama State versus Southern. Who you got in the championship game? That doesn't matter what you come in. It's a 1 game.
One winner take all. I've got to go with Southern based on the fact that 1 extra day is why I go with Southern. Also, the one other thing that I'll go with for the rest of this tournament, I'm going with the visiting team. because the visiting their first at bat, they get a chance to get up. If they get up in the first or the second inning, the home team is going to press, and they're going to be trying to hit 3-run home runs with no one on base. That's why I'm going to go with the visiting team for the rest of the tournament.
Shout out to Deuce. He's here enjoying the tournament with me. You see him sneaking in the background there, trying to stay out of the lens, ducking down, but not quite enough. He's doing his thing. But this is a father-son weekend, and we're getting it done there. Any last thing you want to point out before we close?
Just check with us tomorrow. We're going to come. We don't know what time we're going to come, but we're going to do something tomorrow. Hopefully between game 1 and game 2. And depending on what we have as far as if games, we may do an update then also. And, hey, it's not football season, Doc, but do we want to do a Sunday morning?
Yeah, possibly. Let's see what we can do.
Be on the lookout. We may do a Sunday morning. Get a dry run getting ready for football season.
There you go. So this is Game Time production of Black College Sports Network, collaboration between myself, that's Dr. Cavil's Inside HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Watch, Charles Bishop, with my colleague here, Drew, from Sports Rap. That's Brian and AD as they do it. Check them out every Sunday and when as they bring it down. Obviously, check us out every Tuesday and Thursday, 6 o'clock Central Standard Time. You know how it goes. Check out the rest of the shows as we bring you O and G Strike Zone as they like to get it done. Obviously, Charles with myself. We got Carlos Brown. He'll be coming in Saturday.
Maybe
get ready
ask
for a
one
show
of us
tomorrow.
to come on tomorrow.
Yeah, we're
here.
We give him some love. We can give him some updates.
We can give him some
I'm
updates.
sure he has a power-packed show, and he's certainly going to be all in, and he's feeling good. His chest is out there in terms of Southern. He's probably a little disappointed because, his other team is having a little trouble against Boston in terms of a Miami Heat fan. I wouldn't even bring it up, but he puts it out there himself that he's such a
You can go ahead and bury them.
Yeah. So it's going to be a little difficult there. But that'll do it for us. Dr. Ville's Inside the HBC Sports Lab. Obviously, Drew of Sports Rap. Again, this is Game Time production of Black College Sports. Signing out.
We'll holler. Good job. Good job.
Wow,
But no script.
Yeah.